What's going on here then? What's going on here is a 1974 Yamaha XS500. Yamaha have made many fine motorcycles over the years, but this is not one of them. You know, in the 70s Yamaha made a lot of two-strokes, you know, 185, 175, 125, 200, 250, 305, 350, 400, you get the idea. But they also made four-strokes, and really, they really kind of dropped the ball in the early 70s on the four-strokes, with the notable exception of the XS600, the parallel twin that came out in 1972, and I think they went on to sell that for about the next 11 years, sold something like 450,000 of them in the United States, and became a classic in the true sense of the word. But they really missed the boat, or dropped the ball on the other stuff, like the TX500 was a very, very odd looking machine with a very, very problematic engine that survived for a couple of years. Funnily enough, when they show up, they're quite expensive, just because they're rare, not because they're particularly sought after or any good. And then they had this, the XS500, which came out about 73 and ran till about 77, which again, you know, it's got very little merit really. In terms of technology, quite high tech. It's got a 4-valve per cylinder, you know, dual overhead camshaft engine with balancer shafts, but very, very complicated inside. Obviously electric start, and I believe it might have been one of the first Yamaha motorcycles to come standard with cast wheels when it was kind of reincarnated in 1976. So you can divide these into early and late. The early being this type with the teardrop tank and the chrome mudguards and the fenders and the nicer looks, and the spoke wheels. And then you can also say late, which was the one with the coffin tank, so the very square tank, horrible ugly plastic fenders, the cast wheels, which weigh an incredible amount, incredibly heavy. So again, you know, not without merit, but not really just a great motorcycle really. I mean, they sold a reasonable amount in the United States. Somebody actually gave this one to me. So like I said, you know, the ubiquitous 19-inch front wheel with the early cast steel front brake, you know, the 4-valve per cylinder engine. I mean, these would probably just about hit 100 miles an hour and probably do about 50 to the gallon, but they're heavy. I wouldn't know whether they're reliable or not. I actually had one of these in the UK in 1987, I think it was, or 88, and somebody had gone to town on this thing. They tuned it, it had cams, it had the head flowed, it had Blue Magnum, S&W Blue Magnum flat slide carbs, if anybody knows what they are. It had electronic ignition, it had some like the box section swing arm, Marzocchi shocks and stuff. Very interesting machine that like the effect of all this tuning didn't particularly give it a lot of power, but it just revved and revved and revved, and it would hit the red line at 9,000, come out, I mean this is no bullshit, but hit the red line at 9,000, come out the other side at 12 and get down to about here. I mean, and if any of my friends who watch this video remember that bike, it was staggeringly loud. It had like a Harris 2-into-1 pipe or something like that. But obviously this isn't one of them. I mean, some people have made these into reasonable cafe racers online, and you know, and you could certainly have a stab at that. I was reading an article about one guy who made a racer out of it and basically pulled out the electric start, pulled out the balancer shafts, pulled out all this sort of shit. But you know, at the end of the day, you could probably work this into a reasonable like motorcycle for plodding around on. It's going to be called a classic nowadays, whether it deserves it or not, but you know, I guess it was, you know, just a product of its time really. Again, you know, this one's got a side cover missing. It runs. I put new points on it. There was no sparks, so I thought, you know what, there can't be too much wrong with this thing, so I just put new points and a condenser on it, and sure enough it fired up on easy start. So I need to put some gas in it and then get it sold. It does have a title. There's not a lot to say really, other than, you know, I guess really nice ones might go up for 1,500–1,800 bucks. Really scabby pieces of shit go for a couple of $100, and I was hoping to, well, I'll put this up for 750 and see what bites. And they have a really odd oil filter as well down there behind the chain case cover, and you can't get that oil filter anymore apparently, so you have to get some sort of conversion, and convert it to another type of oil filter. But again, you know, not particularly meritorious, and not a great bike, not really a good bike, but not necessarily a bad one either. You know, I think there's an element of luck and also just keeping it running. I mean, this thing's done what, 19,596 miles. It'll probably do some more. Like I said, I'm gonna sell it. You know, so it's also heavy. What's interesting is recently I just picked up one of these, which is a Moto Guzzi V53, which is almost completely different from the XS500. It was like, this is like 6, 7, 8 years later. It's like an 82. But it's still a 500 twin, but it weighs like 380 pounds instead of like, I don't know, 480, 500, something like that. I did bring it home on the hitch carrier of the Jeep, and it was buckling a little bit under the weight. Well, no, the Jeep was sitting rather low at the back, let's put it like that. So like I said, I mean, if you want an XS500, they're out there. They sold quite a few in the United States, but most of them seem to have ended up in scrap yards, and you see occasionally on Craigslist Denver, you'll see them pop up once every couple of months, you know. You know, if you what again, like I said, but you know, if you wanted to cafe race something or get something for plodding around, you'd be better off with an XS650. Having said that, of course, XS650s command higher prices, and they also go a lot quicker, and they're a lot more popular, and they're a great machine to put into a to make into a cafe racer. So that's all I've got to say about this, really. It kind of is what it is. There's various owners groups, forums, websites on the, you know, to discuss the merits of the XS500. I'm sure if there's some problems, and they appear to have problems with exhaust valves, or exhaust ports, or carbs, or stuff like that. I'm not really sure, but a lot of people have kind of figured these things out. So if you wanted a cheap classic, you could get one of these, and then probably make some mods to make it run a little bit better, and actually keep it running. I mean, it shares a lot of stuff of chassis parts with the XS650s and the kind of, you know, the Yamaha stuff of that era. I'm trying to think if these really have any good points, and like I said, I struggle to think of them really. It's just a kind of forgotten bike. But Yamaha did come up with some shit four-strokes. I mean, the XS750 and 850 were mediocre at best. The XS1100 was overpowered and under chassis, undersprung. You know, the XJ550, 650, 750 were very average, really, and haven't really stood the test of time when you put them against like 754s and GS 750s and things like that. You know, but then of course the Yamaha Revolution came, and they made the FJ1100 and 1200, which were fine motorcycles, and of course the FZ750 and the FZR1000, which are fantastic motorcycles. I mean, the FZR1000 of 87, 88, 89, 90 was an all-round great bike. It, you know, really is a velvet glove. You know, so so that's what we've got, really. Like I say, if you come across one of these, it's going to be relatively maintenance intensive, I think. But it'll probably just chug along. Spares aren't hard to find. They're just a kind of, you know, just a very average UJM, used universal Japanese motorcycle. But this one, if you do want one bad enough, this one is for sale. It's May 2014. Just look on Denver Craigslist, you'll find it easy enough. Yamaha XS500 1974, if you can't live without it. But I would imagine that most people out there probably can. See ya.